Hello and welcome to this guide, Living Well at Home, a guide for home support frontline staff. It's aimed at people like you, home support workers, or you might call yourself care workers or domiciliary care workers, who day by day support people in their own homes to live better lives, more comfortable, fulfilled and happier lives. The guide will help you to reflect on your role in supporting people to live well at home. Lots of home support workers will no doubt already work in the way the guide describes. If you do, that's great, but please still read the guide. It's always good to be reminded of why we do what we do. As a council, we're working together with home support providers, like the company you work for, to change the way that home support is delivered. This guide tells you what's changing, why it's changing, what will be different after the change, and also describes the benefits for people who use the service and for you as frontline staff. The guide will be useful to anyone involved in the delivery of home support services, including your manager and senior staff. They should have already read it, but if they haven't, please encourage them to do so. You may be reading or listening to this guide alone or with your colleagues. From time to time, you will see this symbol. This is an opportunity to stop, think, maybe discuss or even write yourself some notes. So, what will you learn from this guide? Hopefully, the guide will introduce or demystify some important words and ideas, such as time and task, personalisation, and outcomes. The guide explains some old social care approaches and why we want to change this to new, different approaches which are better for everyone, including you. So, to begin, sometimes in our work lives, words are used which we don't use in our everyday lives. Sometimes these words are just used as a kind of shorthand for longer explanations. Unfortunately, this can be confusing and unhelpful and can even create barriers, often for the people who have care and support needs themselves, and for you, staff providing the support. It's important that this language is demystified and replaced with everyday language so that you can fully understand the importance of your role. The next few slides explain what some of the words actually mean and will help you to understand the way that home support services are changing. One of the changes we have made is to move away from a deficit approach to social work. We also aim to move away from a deficit approach in social care too. Take a moment to read the definition of deficit and deficit approach. Take some time to think through the effects of this way of working. How would this make you feel if you were the person receiving the support? What effects might this have on people and services? You would probably be right to think that this approach made people feel that they were failing and lacking. It was a very demotivating approach for people who need care and support, and probably made them even more and more reliant on services, so disabling them even more. You will probably agree that it's really a very negative approach. Thankfully, this negative approach has been replaced by more positive approaches, focusing on the strengths and the assets that people have. It's about the things that people can do for themselves and are good at. Even small things count, like dressing themselves, or bigger things like learning new skills, like shopping online. It's also about things like family and friends as support networks, and community clubs, support groups, and assistive technology, including readily available apps and YouTube exercise videos. It's not always about social care. It's quite often about things that are just available to the general public. Things like Alexa, enabling people to be in more control of their environments and giving people reminders to do important things. Again, take some time to think about the different effect that this approach might have. You'd be right to think that this is a far more positive and motivating approach, which helps to keep people independent for far longer. You've probably heard of the term co-production, but what does it mean? Co-production just means doing things together. Increasingly, the approach is about recognizing that people themselves are the experts in their own lives when given good information. People want to be in control and make choices about their lives. It's about doing with rather than doing to or for. This approach should also be reflected in the work you do. Of course, there are times when you have to do things for people, but it's about keeping them involved at all times, even in small ways, like asking if it's okay for you to roll back the quilt or wash a person's face. It's about doing things together. Can you think of a time when you've made assumptions about the people you support because of their age or gender or disability? I know that I have. It's probably something that we've all done at some point without even thinking. All old ladies like bingo, all men like to talk about football, old people don't like spicy food, that kind of thing. I always remember learning a really valuable lesson about this from an older lady called Anne, who was horrified when she had to go into hospital once and was called Annie for no other reason than she was a certain age and had white hair. She felt that she was seen as just another Annie, an old lady in a nightie in a hospital bed. Little did the staff know that Anne had served in the armed forces travelling the world, had been decorated for her services, and had established a national charity which is still going strong today. Personalisation recognises that we're all different, and our care and support needs to be right for us, not just the same as everyone else called Annie, who is over 60 and is white hair. There's an increasing understanding that our physical, mental, social, and emotional health are all interlinked. Think about a time when your emotions may have taken a bit of a battering. It's highly likely that this affected your mental and your physical health too. Things like your eating and sleeping patterns. It's really important in your role as support workers to understand the importance of a person's overall well-being. It's not just about making sure that they're clean and have had something to eat and drink. Are they lonely, anxious, upset, or ecstatically happy and bursting to share their good news with someone? When people approach the council or any social care provider to ask for additional support, it's usually because they recognise that they want or need to improve the quality of their life and are usually clear about what they want to achieve. These are their outcomes. It might be to feel clean and comfortable, or to eat food which I enjoy, or to get out and about and make friends. These are all outcomes. You play a vital role in helping people to achieve these outcomes and also to recognise when outcomes are not being met and telling your manager about this. Your role as a home support worker is important. It helps people to live well at home by supporting people to achieve what is important to them, to meet their outcomes. As we saw earlier in this guide, Kirklees Council wants to change the way that home support is delivered to enable people to achieve their outcomes. We want to do this, but equally, the law tells us that we must do this. No doubt, as a home support worker, you want to get to know what's important to the people you support and to help them achieve this. That's why you do the job you do. But did you know that the law actually tells you that you have to do this? Read this slide to find out what the law says. You will also be aware that the service that you work for is regulated by the Care Quality Commission. Read what the Health and Social Care Act, Regulation 9, tells you about how you deliver the care to individuals. So, we've already looked at the older, more negative approaches to social work and social care. And we come now to why we want to change the way that home support is delivered to be a better fit with supporting people to meet their outcomes. Home support is currently delivered using the time and task model. You've probably heard of this already. It means that an assessor allocates an estimated amount of time for a list of tasks to be completed every time you visit the person you're supporting. Unfortunately, there are some side effects to this way of working. You already know what you need to do at each visit, so there's a temptation to just get on with it without maybe even talking with the person you're supporting or asking, "How are you today?" or "What do you need today?" Your focus may have unwittingly moved from the individual person to the tasks. People tell us that they sometimes feel that tasks are just being done to them or for them without any involvement from them. From previous slides, you'll remember that this is the negative deficit way of working and not the positive strengths-based way that we want to work. We want to move to a way of working which helps you to focus on being person-centered and offering a personalised service. Remember Anne from the previous slides? And on supporting people to meet their outcomes, not just viewing people as a list of tasks to be completed. And we need your help to do this. To summarise, it's more about what matters to people than what is the matter with people. What do you think about this way of working? Will it be better for the people you support? Will it be better for you? Take some time to think about how you feel about this. One of the things which we hear about this way of working is that it isn't really practical or realistic, and it won't work in real life. We wondered if this was true, so we asked people who already work in this way. They gave us lots of examples of how finding out what really matters to people and supporting them to achieve what's important to them makes a huge difference to their lives. Here are some great examples of small things making big differences. Take some time to read these examples, and you may even have some of your own. Here are some more examples for you to read. All of these examples show how important it is that you talk to your manager if you find that the service isn't helping the people you support to meet their outcomes. Sometimes just small changes can make the huge difference that's needed. Bill's story needs a special mention. It shows how really getting to know Bill, working together with him and his family, not making assumptions, letting Bill make his own choices and recognizing his strengths, made such a huge difference to Bill's outcomes. Take some time to read about Bill. You probably know Bill in your work life too. We're making these changes because we, like you, want to provide good support for people to help them to live better lives. Here you can read about some of the things we want to achieve, like putting people very firmly back in the centre and control of their own lives. We also want you to be recognised as qualified and skilled workers and recognised for the vital role you play in supporting people to live better lives. We also want to work together in partnership, recognising that when we work together, we really can help people to achieve their outcomes. Before we move on, take some time to think about how moving to a more outcome-focused way of working may affect your role. Is there even more you can do to improve your practice? You might also want to think about, what do you need to be able to work in a different way? What effect will this have on your work? What are the benefits for you? And are there any challenges? You might want to talk with your manager about all of this after you've watched this guidance. We really do hope that working in this new way has positive effects for you as a home support worker, helping you to have even better relationships with the people you support and their families, and talking to your manager about what's going well and maybe what's not going so well and perhaps needs changing. Our aim is that by enabling you to help people to achieve their outcomes, you will feel even prouder of the vital role that you play, be more fulfilled and motivated in your work. This slide and the next slide show how working in a personalised way, which focuses on what people want to achieve in their lives, has positive results for people who need care and support. It shows how people are more likely to take control of their care and support and be an active partner in their care instead of a passive recipient of their care. This helps people to remain in control and as independent as possible for as long as possible. This shift towards personalised care, which we've discussed, isn't only happening in social care, it's also happening in healthcare. And this slide shows the different ways in which healthcare is moving towards this personalised approach. For example, instead of people being seen as patients with lists of symptoms, people will be seen as whole people with skills, strengths and attributes, as well as having needs to be met. When things change, people can be a little confused about what can and can't be done. It's important that we're clear about this. This slide aims at busting some of the myths. Take a few moments to read the examples. Is there anything which you're not clear about? If there is, please talk with your manager about this. There's lots more information available about working in a personalised way to meet individuals' outcomes. Here are some sources of information. Please do take some time to read the articles or watch the videos. So, thank you for listening to this guide. We hope it's inspired you to work in different ways, to be more creative and involved in supporting people towards living well at home. Thank you.